Something's brewing in Detroit, and if you're a Lions fan, you can feel it. There's talk of a big change coming from Dan Campbell himself, the kind of move he usually avoids at all costs. Meanwhile, a key veteran is racing against time to suit up on a short week, and one of the team's most explosive defenders might finally make his return when it matters most. With the playoffs around the corner and the Cowboys heating up, every decision counts. And the first headline, it's already turning heads. If there's one thing we know about Dan Campbell, it's that he loves old school football. Smash mouth, run the ball down your throat type of football, that's who he is. But this week, that version of Campbell might have to take a back seat. Because if the Lions want to take down a red-hot Cowboys team, they might need to throw the first punch, literally. Now look, the Cowboys are cooking, everyone knows it, but hot streaks don't last forever, and the Lions know that better than anyone. They had their own 4-game heater earlier in the year before it all came crashing down. So the big question is, can Detroit be the team that ends Dallas's run? Let's start with the obvious, the Cowboys' defense. On paper, you'd think they're elite, but dig a little deeper and the numbers tell a different story. They're 31st in defensive DVOA. They've given up the 3rd most points in the league. That's bottom of the barrel stuff, but people are still hyping them up, and there's a reason: trades. Since the deadline, Dallas added Quinnen Williams and a couple of other defensive reinforcements. And yeah, they've looked better since then. The problem is, their system is built around one key thing: dominating early downs. Here's the trap the Lions have to avoid. Dallas loves loading up the box with that 5-man front on 1st and 2nd down. It's designed to blow up the run game before it even starts. And guess what? That's exactly what Detroit loves to do. Hand it off to Gibbs or Montgomery and grind. But if they stick to that script, they're walking straight into a buzzsaw. The workaround? Go aerial early. Forget the run. Hit them in the flats, hit them on quick passes, get those linebackers moving side to side, and make that secondary work. Why? Because when Dallas goes heavy up front, they sacrifice coverage, less bodies watching the pass, Mayer's more openings, and here's the kicker. Well, the Lions are actually really good when they pass early, like 73.6% completion rate on 1st down and 72.6% on 2nd down. That's elite, and that's without even mentioning how predictable they've been so far, starting most of their drives with a run. Sure, it gets them 5 yards per carry, but it also lets defenses tee off. The opportunity is sitting right there. Flip the script, catch Dallas off balance, and force them to adjust. Then, once they're scrambling, then you bring out the run game and punch them in the mouth. But again, that's not how Dan Campbell usually operates. This is a guy who builds game plans around grit, physicality, and breaking wills. Asking him to go pass first is like asking Batman to start using guns. It's just not in his code. And while Campbell's game plan might flip everything upside down, there's an even bigger concern. 2 of Detroit's biggest stars might not even hit the field on Thursday night. Just when you thought the challenge against Dallas couldn't get any tougher, the injury report drops. And it's not pretty. Let's start with the 2 names that matter most, St. Brown and Penei Sewell. Both are officially listed as questionable for Thursday night football, and that's a big fat problem. St. Brown tweaked his ankle last week against the Packers and had to leave the game early. That alone was enough to raise alarms. But now, on a short week, it's a race against time. He didn't practice on Wednesday, which is usually a bad sign this close to kickoff. And even if he suits up, no one knows how effective he'll be. And if you've watched this offense at all this year, you already know this dude is the heart and soul of the passing game. He's the one who keeps drives alive, the safety valve when pressure hits. The guy Jared Goff trusts on 3rd down. You take him out of the equation and suddenly everything feels slower, riskier, less dangerous. Now throw in Sewell, one of the best young tackles in the game, also questionable. If he's limited or can't go, that's a nightmare scenario against a Dallas pass rush that's built to attack from every angle. Micah Parsons lives for these moments, and without a clean pocket, Goff's rhythm-based style can unravel fast. And it doesn't stop there. The list of guys either out or banged up is growing by the hour. Kirby Joseph, Khalif Raymond, Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra, all ruled out. That's key depth on both sides of the ball, gone. And more names floating in limbo, safety Brian Branch, plus offensive linemen Graham Glasgow and Taylor Decker, both questionable. That's potentially 3 starters on the O-line who might not be on 100%. Against Dallas, that's a brutal setup. And it's not just physical, it's mental. Playing on a short week means less time for treatment, less time for walkthroughs, and way less less time for adjustments. The Cowboys are coming in healthy and hungry, while Detroit looks like it's patching things together with duct tape and adrenaline. There's still hope. Maybe St. Brown wakes up Thursday feeling like a machine. Maybe Sewell gets cleared last minute and holds down the edge like he always does. But if either of them can't go, this becomes a different game. The kind of game where the margin for error disappears. The kind where one missed block or one dropped pass swings momentum hard in the wrong direction. So yeah, everyone's watching Campbell's play calling this week, but just as important, who's even available to run the plays? Because right now, nothing's guaranteed, and just when it felt like the roster couldn't take another hit, one key defender, who's been out for weeks, might finally be gearing up for a much-needed return. The Lions' defense has been hanging on by threads lately, and one name that's been missing from the picture is Kerby Joseph. It's been 6 straight games without him. Knee injury. Frustrating as hell, but now there's a glimmer of hope. Joseph is hopeful to make his return, possibly as soon as Week 15 against the Rams. That's not just good news, that's season-shifting news. Detroit's secondary has been holding it together with backups and band-aids. Guys like Thomas Harper and Brian Branch have stepped up, sure, but the truth is, they've been surviving, not dominating. And Joseph, he's a playmaker, a difference maker, a guy who goes and gets the ball. Even Branch said it this week, having Joseph back would be huge. Everybody knows Kerby, he said. He'll go get that ball. That's something we need. And he's right. Down the stretch, one takeaway can decide a game. One pick can flip a season. And Joseph is that kind of guy. He's got that instinct, that timing, that fearless attitude in coverage that not many safeties bring to the table. The Lions aren't panicking, at least not publicly, but they're walking a thin line, trying to hold onto a wildcard spot while still keeping a sliver of hope alive for the NFC North crown. Every game is a must-win now. Every snap counts. Joseph was limited in Monday's practice, then didn't participate Tuesday or Wednesday. That's a bit concerning, but also expected. They're clearly being cautious, playing the long game, because rushing him back and losing him again, that'd be a disaster. But if he's back by next week, fully locked in, that could stabilize a unit that desperately needs some swagger again. Right now, it's day by day. The knee still isn't 100%, but you can feel it. Joseph wants back in. And the defense, they're waiting anxiously. If Campbell sticks to his old habits, if St. Brown sits out, if Joseph doesn't return, this team could slide fast. But what do you think? Is Detroit ready for this final stretch? Drop your take below and don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss a snap.